TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Oshawa MPP Jennifer French. Good to see you again on the show. How you been keeping?
Well, thank you. I would like to cordially invite everyone to my basement. So it's nice to have you here. It's very nice to see you. I see you on TV really, but it's nice to see you on screen and to be able to connect with folks.
Yeah, you know what? There will come a day eventually when we can meet again in person in the studio. But until then, Zoom has been a godsend. I'll tell you that much. Let's start off with the withdrawal of optometry services for OHIP insured residents. That happened September 1st. Mm-hmm. You recently wrote to the Minister of Health and you collected a whole lot of petitions asking for them to deal with this issue, correct?
Yes. And I will say I didn't even have to collect them. They just came. You know, it has been a very coordinated, very resonant issue for folks. The need to see and protect our vision and our access to optometric eye health is something that is really resonant for folks across the community, whether or not they have an optometrist or not. It's been a door-to-door petition movement, and I had quite a stack. And I have far more. Like I just stopped by the office the other day and got another stack. So it continues. I have been pleased to stand in the legislature before the summer recess, and since we've been back presenting the petitions. But I wrote a recent letter, and the government has been hearing it. They I don't know why they're digging their heels in on this or where we will land, but they have to be feeling the pressure from the community. I'm hearing from folks on ODSP, folks with diabetes, those whose eye health, everyone's eye health matters, but who are quite concerned that they can't get those appointments. When we're talking about students who can't see the board now that we're back to school, seniors who are worried, the folks on ODSP and whatnot, that they're just left out of this care. So that's not okay in the province.
And of course, I think there are quite a number of people that don't realize how important the optometrists are, because not everyone can get an appointment with an ophthalmologist, right? An MD, and how much we do rely on our optometrists for eye care.
Yeah, and some folks still have that continuity of care. And if people are not sure, if they reach out to our office, we're going to direct people to call their optometrist to find out whether or not they are being impacted by this circumstance. But certainly a lot of people are concerned they can't get those appointments. And it's a matter of fairness, access to care, all of that, and we're encouraging the government to stay at the table, for goodness sakes, get back to the table, negotiate. But I guess they actually have to be willing to spend the money. And they're hearing from a lot of Ontarians that this is a valued service, and that eye health is health, and we should be funding it.
Are you surprised it got to this point where optometrists withdrew their services?
It's something that we watched building, because they've been really trying to influence the government and trying to get them to understand the need for this, and the fact that the government knows the issues and that they've come to the table, you can see what I can see reported by the optometrists and whatnot on their Save Eye Care website, but it isn't what they've been offered is insufficient to cover even their costs, right? And looking at other jurisdictions and comparing, I just don't understand why the government isn't recognizing, the need for appropriately funded eye care. So I mean, it built to this, but we all saw it coming. Well, you know, I don't mean to make a pun there, but we did. And I don't know whether the government is just playing chicken or where we are, but it's an unfortunate situation we find ourselves in.
So from all the letters you've received and the phone calls you've received, you know, how critical is this to be solved? How are residents telling you that they've been affected? How badly have they been affected?
Well, a lot of folks are calling because they're nervous. They worry that they may need the care and they won't be there, right? Or other people, like I spoke to someone, a constituent who had called in about a number of other issues, but this is one of them. That you know, someone with diabetes, their eyes change differently. Their health can be monitored differently through their eyes, right? Some people don't really know how things are interconnected, but the eyes aren't just a window to the soul, right? They're a chance to look at people's overall health. And so quite concerned about what might not be caught, because the optometrist won't have a chance to have this annual checkup. Prescriptions are changing and people don't know, like they know that their eyes are changing, but they won't be able to get a prescription for their corrective lenses if they fall in those groups. And you know, people they don't understand why they are being they're no longer able to make that appointment, to have access to that appointment, and they are quite concerned. And people are certainly siding on the side of the optometrists, that it is a fundamental, you know, fairness and funding and access issue. And nobody is fooled by the government's rhetoric in the legislature. They really aren't. Like, I've been quite impressed with how educated the people calling our office to advocate. They know that what the optometrists have been offered isn't sufficient or fair. So, you know, the government's going to have their hands full. Right? They have a very educated public on this issue.
Okay, I want to move on to long-term care. It's an issue that you and I have discussed at length. The Conservative government recently defeating an NDP motion to stop licensing private nursing homes. Your thoughts on that?
Long-term care has been an issue since long before I was elected, but it was one of the earliest issues that I understood to be complex and you know, a burning need to be addressed. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, has shone a very clear light on what is needed and what isn't happening, and just how dire the circumstances have been. And of course, we as a region, but we as a province have struggled with significant loss because of the pandemic and COVID-19 and whatnot. Whether it's staffing issues, safety issues. The fact that the government is kind of, they're holding firm to profit margins over patient care or resident care, it just boggles my mind. You know, when we bring forward a motion to say that we prioritize not-for-profit, I don't understand how you can be offside with that. You know, we're seeing different outcomes. You know, it's something that can certainly be measured. And when I have raised in committee, we've talked about in the legislature, I'm working towards a private members bill with a focus on long-term care accountability. We don't see accountability with these private homes the way that we do with the you know, not-for-profits and those that have the public involvement, right? Whether it's a regional home or you know, with that local involvement. And so it's a big picture, but the story, like, always needs to be resident care should be the priority. Accountability, transparency should be at the heart of this, you know, and better outcomes. So we haven't had the staffing we needed. You know, we see in other jurisdictions like Quebec had hired how many folks that they've been able to retain because they're paying them well. They made it a priority to hire and train and retain. And we're always playing catch up in Ontario, right? So whatever announcement the government has on any given day is, you know, too little, too late. And it's kind of that last ditch attempt to change the channel because people know that their record has really been dismal. And I would say quite negligent. And we've got to take the profits out of long-term care and put accountability and care back in.
Your private members bill, where are you in the process?
Thanks for asking. Because the legislature had prorogued, everything was wiped off the table. So I have 3 that I will be reintroducing, but taking the time to make sure that if there are any changes in, regulations, legislation, that the bills are, what they need to be to reintroduce. So that's happening on one side. But the one that I had just referenced with long-term care accountability, I'm working with our NDP critic, Sarah Singh, working with experts and families. And we've been doing kind of the background research for a long time about what is needed in terms of accountability, from training to fines and kind of the financial deterrents and disincentives for bad actors, which don't exist. There are no financial disincentives or penalties. And so making sure that the bill offers solutions. It's turning out to have a number of different parts, because a lot of things are missing, or some are broken and some are just absent. So I've been working with legislative council in drafting that, and we're moving forward on it. So I'm hoping to have a chance to debate and discuss that in the legislature. So still some work to do, but it is moving forward. It's just gotten a little bigger than I had intended, because there's a lot that we could talk about with accountability.
Yeah. And of course, staffing shortages. The government expedited a new long-term care facility right beside the Ajax Pickering Hospital. But staffing shortages continue. You can have all the bricks and mortar that you want, and that is wonderful. And they have moved it along so quickly, but the concern is still there as far as staffing shortages go, is it not?
It is, and it has been from the beginning. And there are a lot of pieces to consider. It's one thing to say we're going to hire a whole bunch of new people to fill these jobs, but the story can't just be the headline. Are you going to pay them enough that they stay in that role? That they can actually feed their families, that they can, they don't have to cobble together full-time work from part-time hours in different places, right? When we see PSWs who have 3 different jobs, especially before the pandemic, before there was a bit of attention to that, why aren't we paying people enough that they can work full-time and feed themselves? I don't know.
And so that they don't have to go from place to place to place all part-time, because that really played a part in the spread of COVID-19 in our long-term care facilities, correct?
Yeah, and there was no hiding from it, right? Because it was such a health and safety concern, but it always should have been viewed as a problem from, yes, the health and safety concern, but also why are we making people work so hard for so little without any benefits or protections with these employers that, are not treating them the way that they deserve. I mean, we talk about healthcare heroes. God knows we applaud and appreciate the work that our frontline workers are doing, especially those in the PSW roles working with our most vulnerable, family members and neighbors. But it's not just a matter of wages. That is a consideration, but paid sick days, for crying out loud. I mean, this government can say, look, we're hiring new people, and isn't that going to be awesome? But one of their first moves when they formed government was to take away it was not enough, but to take away the 2 paid sick days, to just wipe them off the table. So now if you have someone who wants to get a vaccine, they don't even have, if they have some symptoms afterwards, or, they don't have the time to take it. They don't have the day afterwards to take a sick day. People don't have paid sick days. And we've been fighting that fight this entire pandemic. And everybody recognizes the need for flexibility. If you're told to stay home, to err on the side of caution, or while you're waiting for test results, too bad, so sad, which has forced people to make that untenable choice, or that impossible decision of, I shouldn't go to work, but I have to, for financial reasons or whatnot. So again, are you going to pay them fairly? Are you going to train them? What is the retention strategy? I'd really like for them to use the word, retain, and talk about wages, and talk about respect, and talk about, health and safety in the workplace. So.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. We're going to go to a quick break, more of our conversation with Oshawa MPP Jennifer French after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
We've just been through a difficult time. For many, it's been a struggle, but it has also brought us together, and we can't stop now. It's time to step up and say, this is my community. This, right here, is what matters. It's time to help your neighbors who need it most, like veterans, seniors, and youth. It's time to rebuild. When you join the Legion, you directly support essential programs and initiatives right in your community.
Hey, I'm Chef Corey Dern, host of a show on Rogers TV Georgina called Cooking with Corey. Join me bi-weekly for brand new episodes where I teach you not only what to cook, but how to cook. On this show, we have cooked almost everything. Things like Japanese udon noodles with tofu, chicken on the rocks, zucchini fritters, and even grilled cheese. There's only one thing missing, and that's smell-o-vision. That's Cooking with Corey, right here on Rogers TV Georgina.
Hello everyone, your host Antoine Hashim here on the couch, and welcome to season 8. Yay! 8 seasons, and we've got a lot of awesome guests coming up, so keep watching.
On the next episode of Cinema Scene, film critic Andreas Guzman and I get ghoulish on the terrifying topic of genre films. Watcher beware, you're in for a scare.
And welcome back to Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Oshawa MPP Jennifer French. We've been talking so far about the withdrawal of optometry services, then of course long-term care and issues around there. I want to really move to a different area. I want to talk to you about the York Region Wastewater Act, the Upper York Sewage Solutions Plan that has been put on hold, and now Durham is hearing that we may end up taking even more sewage from York Region. We already are taking, 85% of York Region sewage. It's traveling down here and dealt with at our wastewater plant. There was a plan in place for them to deal with their own, and it's been put on hold. Yes?
Sort of.
You've been very vocal about that.
Well, and let me explain why. I have the opportunity to serve the province as the official opposition critic for infrastructure, transportation, highways. And because I'm also the only non-government elected official, provincially in Durham Region, like there are, how many are there? Seven of us, and I'm the only non-government. So I'm the only one who will talk about this and raise these issues. So I had the opportunity when the government reintroduced this bill. It was last week or whatever. It all happened so fast. I had about 48 hours from when they tabled the bill to look at it, read it, and come up with a 1 hour, speech that actually was hopefully helpful and tried to, not just shed a light on what was going on, but to actually bring voice to the legislature on behalf of so many people who are potentially impacted by this. So that's why I've been vocal on this as critic. It's in my file as a major infrastructure project. Yeah, when we think of York, we take a lot of their waste. They're landlocked. That's a longstanding agreement. That's just kind of what's happening. But this is the Upper York, which is a would-be community, right? All of this is projected because, a lot of folks are quite excited about urban sprawl and building in new areas rather than intensifying existing, right? So for the Upper York area, they're going to have waste and it's going to need to go somewhere. So for the last about 10 years, York has been in talks with the last Liberal government, lots of things involved, like $100 million spent of taxpayer dollars working on what's called the Upper York Sewage Solutions Plan. I don't know all of the ins and outs of that because a lot of that was, behind closed doors and whatnot was being figured out. side note, unfortunately, First Nations, the impacted First Nations, the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, not consulted, not involved in that process. So now what we found out was about a year ago, there were whispers of Durham Region suddenly being this, okay, instead of taking that sewage and putting into, like Simcoe through a sewage, a massive sewage project, to clean and, do things responsibly or whatnot. About a year ago, we started hearing rumblings in the region of maybe the government was looking to ship it down and pipeline of sewage out and into Lake Ontario, but to add on top of what we're already taking, which is problematic for a number of reasons. There are environmental implications here. There are certainly not consultation. Durham has no idea what it would look like for infrastructure if we were responsible for this. We've already got our own growth plans, right? That we're going to have more people who are going to have more waste, that we'll have to factor that into our own plan and our property tax and our infrastructure. So this massive influx of sewage would obviously ramp up that plan, and we have no details, no numbers, no information from the government. The government says, "Oh, that's not what we're doing. We're just stopping this plan. We're going to have a task force of folks to figure out what the best thing really is, and we'll get back to you in a year from now."
After the election.
So your guess is as good as mine. You've got a lot of people, in Lake Simcoe that don't want to deal with it. You've got Durham Region, which is a vote-rich area, and it really does kick the can. Sorry, can. I don't mean to make toilet jokes. I've tried really hard not to. I used to teach grade 7 and 8 though, so I've got them in here. But I don't mean to make light of it, right? So it does, it begs the question. But the bill that they brought in basically freezes the process, makes it so the minister can't make a decision, makes it so the government can't be sued or held liable for any of this, any concerns. There's a lot of money involved, and now nobody can be mad at them. But that's all that's in the bill. So it was, I don't mean to make light of it, but I had the opportunity to spend a full hour and talk about, government backroom deals. But in this case, we have government bathroom deals.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, so we can kind of keep our attention on that. But that's it's somewhere in the pipeline, like literally a pipeline.
Yeah. You're not the only one that's concerned. Ajax Mayor Sean Collier, we had quite a lengthy discussion with him on this show about that issue as well, and the effect on their shoreline. We've only got about 4 minutes until we're done and we're out of time. So I do want to ask you, you recently asked for feedback from your constituents regarding issues facing children and families in your area. What did you hear from them?
And I appreciate you reminding me of that, because it's one of those, we leave it out there and we kind of hear back at different times. And so when we had first put out the survey, there were a lot of questions about back to school and what that would look like. We've heard, people on both sides of virtual in versus in person. There was some of that sort of that commentary, but there are a lot of people who are concerned about, vaccination and whether the adults in schools are vaccinated, questions about younger children being vaccinated, ventilation, class sizes, things that we've been talking about, but also people like it's just the real concerns. The folks, are sending their, precious ducklings into classrooms and want to make sure that there's enough custodial staff to do the disinfecting and cleaning, at lunchtime or what have you, that they're not overcrowding the classroom, that sort of thing. So we definitely, it was heavy on school and education issues. We're knocking at doors, with different community volunteers talking about education issues and continuing to push this government to stop cutting. Like, remember, they had that cut agenda, and then the pandemic sort of created this obviously new reality, new landscape, but there are fewer EAs and custodians in classroom. The experience that families are having, there are some some positives for families around virtual learning now. There are some challenges where that's concerned as well. Special needs children and families, ensuring that they get the supports that they need, they don't have access to. So we're working with the boards as well. Their hands are so tied, right? If they're not getting that provincial leadership, if they're trying to play catch up and figure out these, the changes, people see that in the classrooms, and they really do want predictable, stable, safe, quality education for their kids. We all do.
So what are you doing with these results?
I had gathered them, and I'm looking forward to when I can share them in the legislature. There was a section in the survey inviting people to say, what would you like me to say to this government? And so I will go back and pull those and actually stand in my place and share them. I have an opportunity next week to be on the record around healthcare needs. I'm hoping to incorporate some education needs, and we'll see what's up for debate. We won't know until next week. So
right.
Tuned.
Okay, we only have a minute. I want to quickly ask you your thoughts on the government defeating the NDP motion for hospital safety zones.
Disappointing. There isn't anybody who thinks that people undergoing their personal health care, whether it's cancer treatments or just whatever it is that they're struggling with, to also have to deal with the verbal assault or the emotional challenges of a protest. This is something we're going to see more with schools and hospitals. And I do think we need to, as a society, we recognize there are some real challenges that we're going through and divisions, but, people's health and wellness and, cancer care and whatnot. Like, I think our hospitals, I think it's clear that should be a place of healing, not a place of that hurting. And the government, I think that they're just kind of pandering. They're trying to walk that line to keep everybody happy rather than showing leadership, which is disappointing.
Okay. On that note, I'm going to have to end our conversation here. Oshawa MPP Jennifer French, thanks so much for joining us again. And to the viewers, thanks to you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Debra Hutchison. Stay safe, everyone.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
I'm Carolyn King, and I'm a member of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the creator of the Moccasin Identifier. Philip Cote, an artist in Toronto here, took and redrew real moccasins. We're starting over with the children. The idea is that they would research whose land their school is built on, near, or what treaty area they're in. And the educational kit that we have has all that information in there. And the children just love it. My dream is that this province will be covered with moccasin identifiers within the next decade, and they will forever know whose land they're on. That's the goal. Educate and awareness with a nice, simple little program called the Moccasin Identifier.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand. In